In the very recent history, the FDA has been quick to claim, "Let's save the children." With the war on vaping heavily underway, having just imposed overreaching regulations that will essentially destroy the vaping industry as we know it, I started to wonder, what skeletons does the FDA have in its closet? What I found was rather disturbing.
They're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds.
One wouldn't think of corruption in any form when you think of the Food and Drug Administration, otherwise known as the FDA. After all, they govern the safety of America, right? Certainly you wouldn't think of conspiracy and intent to conceal detrimental information to the public, but sadly, you'd be wrong. You've likely heard of OXYCONTIN. It's that heavy-duty narcotic painkiller, the one that has spurred the prescription drug addiction problem to new heights over the past several years. It's highly addictive, so addictive in fact that it is said to lead people to using heroin in order to get a cheaper high. OXYCONTIN is a highly addictive drug. It's a narcotic, a opiate. This means it's made from the same stuff as heroin. So, moving on, you might have heard the FDA approve the use of OXYCONTIN for children as young as age 11. What you may not know is the FDA initially opened the door in 2012 for testing on children as young as 6. Purdue Pharma's patent for OXYCONTIN was set to expire in August of 2013. If that were to happen, other big pharma companies would be able to make generic versions of the pricey narcotic and sell them for cheaper, taking away from Purdue's pockets. Purdue wasn't interested in helping children overcome some deadly illness or debilitating pain, but instead, their interest was in, not surprisingly, their bottom line. And the FDA knew it. By having the FDA approve new trials on children, Purdue Pharma was able to extend their patent and protect their pockets. Think about little Tommy, a fresh first grader popping pills. Are you kidding me? You don't think these ages might be just a tad too young for a drug known as hillbilly heroin? It seems that pharmaceutical painkillers will continue to ravage the population, thanks to the likes of the FDA. Good job saving the children there. Number 2. Moving on with the children in mind, the FDA has approved candy-flavored chewy amphetamines, Adzenys, for children. Sales for ADHD medications were at $4.7 billion in 2006, had nearly tripled to $12.7 billion by last year, and is projected to grow to $17.5 billion in the next 4 years. Think about that for a second. The business of ADHD medication has tripled inside of 10 years. Where will we be in another 10 if the FDA is allowed to continue? New York Times has called this the ADHD epidemic, citing that 5% of children were treated for ADHD in the 90s. That diagnosis has since ballooned to more than double that. That's over 6.4 million children between the ages of 4 to 17 being doped out. Parents, children are naturally hyper. It's called youth. I beg you to not rush into drugging your children as a solution because they're sleeping less. Kids, you shouldn't vape, just take meth. Adzenys. Moving on to number 3. They failed to comment on a test subject's suicide. In 2004, a 19-year-old college student by the name of Tracy Johnson, who was working as a test subject for the FDA while they researched a new antidepressant, committed suicide by hanging herself in the lab of Eli Lilly and Company because the drug manufacturer hadn't publicized any negative side effects about their product. The FDA was expected to share its findings and continue with research to attempt to find a reason for the suicide. Well, they did not. Instead, the FDA said that if they released the information about how the suicide and drug side effects were related, they would be releasing trade secrets, possibly compromising the drug company's recipe and overall business, because in America, profits are more important than human lives. Moving on to number 4. Flowing right into the money aspect, there's this stock scandal. In 2012, an FDA chemist, Ching-Yi Lang, was charged with insider trading, stockpiling, along with his son, $3.6 million. He used inside information about drug approvals to make calculated trades. For years, he exploited his position in the agency to make easy money. This is but one example of corruption in the all-powerful agency, which begs the question, who else is using FDA's all-encompassing oversight to profit? Let's not forget the ex-FDA commissioner being brought up on RICO charges. Which brings us to number 5. Margaret Hamburg, former FDA commissioner, is facing charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, also known as RICO, for concealing deadly consequences of the drug Levaquin made by Johnson & Johnson. Along with her abuse of power, her husband Peter Brown was a hedge fund manager at Renaissance Technologies and is also facing RICO charges along with drug giant Johnson & Johnson. Yep, the same company that pampers and powders your little ones. According to the AHRP report, Brown's reported income was $10 million in 2008 to an estimated $125 million in 2011 and an estimated $90 million in 2012, due in whole or in part to defendants' racketeering conspiracy to withhold information about the devastating and threatening deadly effects of Levaquin. How about this final food for thought though? The new FDA head, Robert Califf, also has ties with Johnson & Johnson. Corruption may be inevitable once again. It seems like every rock you turn over unveils another evil aspect of this noxious agency who claims to have America's interest in the forefront of their operations. Certainly, throughout this series, you'll come to find the FDA is not for the people. Thanks for joining me in exposing some of the FDA's most well-hidden skeletons. Tune in for the next installment as I've made it a mission to expose them for the crooks they truly are. As always, you heard it here, but Google works for everyone. Cloud salute.